Florida's got size. But here's why I would say the field as opposed to the SEC. The bottom line is, if you say the SEC, then you're ruling out Duke. And I can't rule out Duke. I think Flag's going to be back, of course. You got Proctor and these brothers. I'm just looking at them and I'm saying, excuse me, Shai's doing a hell of a job. And you look at Duke right there and I say, Duke is a bona fide threat. Here's the other threat that I'm going to put. We are not going to have a conversation about basketball, about college basketball, without mentioning Rick Pitino, who's now taking his sixth program, to the NCAA tournament.
You're an idiot and a scammer.
You're wrong, Stephen A. Smith. Once again, Stephen A. Smith gets another prediction wrong. Of course, Florida was going to end up winning the national championship. I've been saying this since day one. This is Sports Guy talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Florida stunning Houston with a late rally in the NCAA Championship Game. Remember, Florida was down by 12 points against Houston in the second half. However, Florida was able to complete a second half comeback as they made timely shots and got timely stops. Before I say anything else, though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So, here it is. What was your reaction to Florida's epic comeback victory against Houston? It was awesome to see. I was super fired up to see that comeback from start to finish. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I thought it was ball game when Houston was up 12 in the second half. Remember, Walter Clayton Jr. had not even scored a basket up until that point. I was saying to my buddies and to myself, oh my goodness, what happened to Walter Clayton Jr.? Why is he selling on the biggest stage? I praised this guy on yesterday's show, calling him the next Steph Curry, but Walter Clayton Jr. was nowhere to be found in the first half. He was missing shots, he was turning over the basketball, he was getting gassed up on the defensive end of the floor. I was saying, holy cow, are we witnessing a meltdown in the national championship game? But luckily for Florida and Walter Clayton Jr., he got it together in the final 7 minutes of the game. He managed to find a way to keep drawing fouls and to keep making timely shots. Of course, Walter Clayton Jr. hits the game-tying three late in that ball game. It was 60-57 Houston. At that point, Florida is coming off of a timeout, and then they end up calling a three-point shot for Walter Clayton Jr. It's catch and shoot. He ends up making the shot. It's tied up at 60. Houston's offense went into total meltdown mode. They had zero offense whatsoever. And like I said on yesterday's show, yeah, you can praise the defense all you want, but in order to win a national championship, Houston is going to have to learn how to score, particularly in key situations, and they couldn't do it. Their only offense was L.J. Cryer. Outside of L.J. Cryer, Houston had nobody scoring double figures. That's a huge problem in the national championship game. If you want to win a national championship, you have got to have multiple scorers on your roster. You can't just solely rely on defense to win you the ball game. I understand that there is an old saying about how defense wins championships, and although that is true to an extent, you have to actually score the basketball in order to win the ball game. Houston was not able to score the basketball when it mattered most, particularly late in that ball game. You remember how Houston was down 2 points, 19.7 seconds left. They called their last timeout, and they can't even get a shot up. That's a huge problem. They had plenty of time to get one final shot. I would have gone for the two in that situation. I would have gone to overtime, but obviously Houston didn't do that. Instead, they just stand around, and then they pass it to Sharpe. He tries to attempt a three-point shot, but then he sees Walter Clayton Jr. contest the shot, so he ends up dropping the ball, and then he ends up doing nothing with it. Of course, he can't pick it up because if he does, then it's a travel. At that point, you should have just honestly shot up the basketball. Maybe you could try to draw a foul. I know Walter Clayton Jr. probably would have blocked the shot, but you have got to at least attempt a three-point shot. You can't just drop the ball in that situation. And then for nobody on Houston to even be aware of the rules, their clock essentially runs out, and Florida ends up being the national champions. It's actually pretty insane to think about because Florida led this game for less than 2 minutes in the entire ball game. Houston had the lead for basically over 95% of this ball game, but they weren't able to close. That's why they're not national champions. Instead, we're talking about Florida as the national champions. Like I said about Stephen A. Smith, though, he sounded like an absolute fool. This guy was talking about how Duke and St. John's were going to go on deep runs in March Madness. Obviously, St. John's got upset early. They got upset in the round of 32. In fact, they were the only team in the top 2 seeds to get upset early in the tournament, and as for Duke, they lost in the Final Four. I know that Stephen A. Smith's take about Duke may not have been awful, but let's be completely honest. Did we really think Duke was going to win the national championship? I've been saying from day one that Duke was not going to win the national championship. I always thought that a team from the SEC was going to win the national championship. They've been the best conference in college basketball all year long. This year's tournament absolutely proved that. I also want to show you guys this clip of Seth Greenberg making a correct prediction about the March Madness tournament. Unlike Stephen A. Smith, Seth Greenberg is an actual analyst. He stuck with his Florida pick all the way through. I gotta give him props where credit is due. Roll the film.
If you had a mulligan now, would you change your pick of Florida to win the whole thing? Yes or no, Seth? Still Florida. Still
Florida. And Green, here's the thing. And the reason I have Florida, you're going to go through one of those games they went through against a two-time national champion. But you know what they did at the end of the game? They had a guy that could take over the game. Walter Clayton went all J. Will at the end of that game. Because, you know, we were on the phone actually about 15 minutes prior to that, and we were saying, hey, Walter Clayton, he's kind of disappeared. Is he sick? You know, he doesn't look right. And then all of a sudden, Walter Clayton happened.
Correct!
Say that again, Seth Greenberg. Stand on your takes. I'm glad that you stood on your take at the time, feeling absolutely vindicated, seeing that obviously Florida was the best team in college basketball all year long. The only team that really had a chance to beat Florida was Auburn in terms of the talent, but Florida, man, they were absolutely stacked. And to be completely honest, Florida didn't even play all that great in the March Madness tournament. Every game, it just seemed like there was a player in the starting lineup that had an off game. Even in the national championship game, Walter Clayton Jr. was doing the best that he could to absolutely sell that ball game. But luckily for Florida, Walter Clayton Jr. woke up the last 7 minutes of the ball game, and he came in and hit timely shots. You also think about how Florida started off their 7-0 run in the second half with Walter Clayton Jr. on the bench. At that time, he had 0 points in the ball game. So the coach says, you know what? You're going to sit on the bench. We're going to rely on some of our bench players. And what happened? Florida was able to score the basketball with their bench players. That's how they cut the game to within 5 points. They insert in Walter Clayton Jr. and he keeps making and one baskets. I thought Walter Clayton Jr. played a tough game. And even though his shot wasn't falling, I thought he still did the little things really well. I thought he did a great job giving effort on the defensive end of the floor, and I appreciate that. I give Walter Clayton Jr. a lot of credit for not tapping out of that ball game. You look at how some teams, they would have benched their star player like RJ Luis for St. John's, but Florida's head coach understood that, hey, Walter Clayton Jr. got you to the national championship game in the first place. Why not ride it out with him? And that was the correct decision because Walter Clayton Jr. made timely shots. I feel bad for Kelvin. Sampson. He's Houston's head coach. But at the end of the day, though, when you play sports, there's only one winner and one loser. And in yesterday's ball game, Florida was the winner. I give Florida a lot of credit for being able to pull off this comeback. And as for Houston, they have got to fix their offense because their offense was non-existent the last 10 minutes of the ball game. When you have an offense that non-existent, you're not going to win a championship. You have to score in order to win. And Florida was able to prevent Houston from scoring. So that is why I was extremely impressed. It felt entirely vindicated that Florida was able to beat Houston by 2 points, as I literally predicted on yesterday's show that Florida was going to beat Houston by 2 points in the NCAA Championship Game. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking. Like the video and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That will be for the @DustinAsTran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @DustinAsTran, and that's Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @DustinAsTran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.